the center of mission control.
Yeah, lots of activity here. Again, as a reminder, we are in the deorbit sequence, which begins with the claw separation. This demates the umbilical to the trunk, which has solar panels and have been collecting some of the energy from the sun and providing it to the batteries on board. Once that trunk is separated or lie on the batteries inside, and there's plenty of margin of that power to provide power for the crew as they await for the recovery teams. But after trunk, and the pyro's fired for the claw separation. Claw separation is complete. We're now preparing for trunk separation. Again, it's just a matter of seconds before we confirm that the trunk is separated.
Once again, since that claw is now separated, we're able to separate the trunk. That claw is where the umbilicals for power and telemetry were connecting between the Dragon capsule and the trunk.
The pyro's fired for that trunk separation.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trunk jettison.
Copy, nominal trunk jettison.
All right, so yeah, we have a good trunk separation that starts about a 5-minute clock until we begin that deorbit burn. So that means telemetry is looking good. The nitrox system is primed for cabin and suit cooling, and the heat shield is now exposed and ready for atmospheric reentry. The trunk served its purpose by gathering energy from the sun through the solar rays and converting that into battery power. Since we separated the trunk, we can't generate any more new power, but we don't need to since we're coming home, and Dragon has enough battery power stored already.
Up next, we have the final steps that Dragon will perform prior to reentry: the slew or maneuver to deorbit burn attitude and the deorbit burn itself. This is the last time that the forward Dracos, which are the 4 thrusters located on top of the spacecraft under the nose cone, they will ignite. The deorbit burn will place Dragon on a precise trajectory to the splashdown zone off the coast of Florida and will last about 16 minutes once it starts. And it looks like we're just under 3.5 minutes away from that deorbit burn initiation.
We did confirm that slewing has started. So again, Dragon positions itself sort of off to the side to jettison the trunk so it doesn't have risk of recontact with the spacecraft and successfully burns up in the atmosphere. So it slews or reorients itself to make sure that those forward bulkhead Dracos are pointed in the right direction. We want a retrograde firing to really slow us down. So retrograde meaning the Draco thrusters fire in the direction that the Dragon is traveling in. So the nose is sort of pointed forward if you were to think of it as traveling along that axis.
It's almost like the brakes, like when you're driving a car.
Essentially. And this is a long burn. This is a 16-minute burn. So once it starts, we're going to stand by and just make sure and follow along and just make sure that has a good performance. That really sets them up to and decreases their velocity just enough so it loses some altitude and starts to make contact with the atmosphere. That slowing down, really all that does is just reduce the altitude. So it doesn't really slow it down too much. We're still hanging around 17,000 miles an hour, but it's really the atmosphere that does the bulk of the braking. It's the friction against the atmosphere and that plasma buildup. We go from 17,000 miles an hour to 350 through that process.
In just a matter of minutes.
So
it really does make sense that this deorbit burn, the braking, the slowing down of the Dragon capsule in preparation for all of that, it makes sense that it's 16 minutes long. We're now about 1.5 minutes away from the initiation of that deorbit burn.
Right, again, we are in the deorbit sequence, which begins with that claw separation and trunk separation, both of which were successful. So now we're in what's called the deorbit prep. The spacecraft has slewed with the forward Dracos pointed in the right direction, and we're priming those Draco thrusters ready to fire for that 16-minute burn.
Once again, this deorbit burn will place Dragon on a precise trajectory to return to the splashdown site just off the Atlantic coast of Florida near Jacksonville. And we're less than a minute away from deorbit burn. Once again, this is the last time that those forward Dracos will be utilized. After this burn is complete, we will be able to close the nose cone, which will then basically hide or cover up that area, including the forward hatch, which of course is the hatch that the team used to ingress and egress from the International Space Station. We will be using the side hatch, which is actually outlined by that black liner kind of near the feet of the crew here in this view. That side hatch is what will be utilized for crew egress or exit from the capsule in just under an hour from now. Once again, we're targeting 9:17 p.m. Pacific, 12:17 a.m. Eastern Time for splashdown.
And we are getting lucky with some of these internal cabin views as we prepare for that deorbit burn start. This will be the last time that the crew is in an orbital daytime. They're currently over the South Indian Ocean, just west off the coast of Australia. And again, their trajectory takes them south around Australia